Hi there, and welcome back to another edition of ScaleUp Radio, the podcast inspired by the entrepreneurial scale-up system and designed to make navigating our scale-up journeys that little bit easier by learning from others' experiences. I'm Kevin Brent, and in today's episode, I'm joined by Steve Witt. And Steve is the co-founder of Not Just Travel. Founded in 2001, Not Just Travel has become one of the fastest growing franchises in the UK. And it's got a network now of home-based travel consultants of over 700. And Steve shares the inspiring journey of growing a travel franchise business, but actually of growing any business and scaling any business. He talks about the importance of simplicity, strong relationships, and the lessons learned along the way. And there's so much to take from this discussion about scaling a business. So make sure you don't miss this episode and any future episodes by subscribing to ScaleUp Radio wherever you like to listen to your podcasts. You can also nominate a guest like Steve for ScaleUp Radio if you know someone with an interesting scale-up story, and you can find out how in the show notes below. So for now, continue listening on for this inspirational story from Steve. Welcome to another episode of ScaleUp Radio. I'm delighted today to be joined by Steve Witt, who is the co-founder of Not Just Travel. So, Steve, welcome to ScaleUp Radio.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
Yeah, superb to have you on. I'm really looking forward to hearing your story. And I know not just travel, but you also had a business before that you had a successful exit from. So it'd be good to touch on some of the learnings that you've had from all of that. Not Just Travel. Those of us that haven't heard of it, there's a pretty good clue in the name. But what's it all about? What is Not Just Travel?
We are probably now one of the largest personal travel consultancy businesses in the UK. So we have hundreds and hundreds of home workers all across the country, providing a very personal, tailored travel experience to consumers. So all of our home workers are franchised, so self-employed home workers, and they're responsible for finding their own customers and creating that holiday experience. And our tagline is holidays made better. So we don't sell our own holidays. We sell other people's holidays, your Jet2s, your TUIs, and lots of brands in between, just like any other travel agencies. But we make that whole holiday experience even better for the consumer.
And better because I might want to mix and match a little bit, or better in what sort of ways?
Mix and match, tailored. So I guess COVID was absolutely brilliant for our industry in a way, not good in many ways, but from a point of view of highlighting the importance of using a personal travel consultant, somebody you can talk to, typically someone you've got a mobile phone for 24/7. You can ask questions, you can get responses. We don't hide behind computers or call centers, but we literally get to know every single customer on a sort of very friend-like basis, tailor the holiday to the exact needs of the person looking for the holiday, and just make the whole thing easier, more enjoyable. The typical holiday shopper spends, I don't know how they do this research, but apparently spends on average 8 hours doing their research and visiting 38 websites before they make a booking. We take care of all of that at no extra cost.
Okay, brilliant. So yes, so sometimes it's fun, but it gets to the point where actually it's like, I don't know what I'm doing here. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. All right, great. And you, so just over 20 years, founded the business, something like that.
So technically, we started the day before 9/11. So an interesting time to start a travel business. If ever was a time not to do it, that was it.
Gosh.
But so we're used to adversity with that and many other natural disasters along the way. The business as you see it today is around about 14 years old with the franchise model, which is where we really came into our own, and sales started skyrocketing. All right, so let's look at that in a moment. So can you give us an idea of where you're on the scale up journey? You mentioned how many franchisees you got, but can you give us an idea of where you are? Yeah, so typically we're adding around about 200 new franchisees a year at the moment, which places us probably in the top 2% of all franchises in the UK or in the world. So we reckon we've got to be up there with the fastest growing franchises. We've been voted top 10 on sort of awards as well. So that's sort of franchise recruitment. In terms of holiday sales, we're sort of doubling in size every couple of years. We're a very significant 9-figure business these days. And, in a few years' time, we're striving for that billion mark in terms of sales. But even, a handful of years ago, we would have been in the very low millions of sales. So pretty rapid growth. Brilliant.
So maybe let's take you've already mentioned there was a decision point when you decided to franchise business, but maybe, can we go back to when you started and what made you decide to co-found a business in travel?
Yeah, good question. So I wasn't enjoying what I was doing. I had an internet company, decided that wasn't for me, wasn't enjoying sort of that side of things, wanted to get out of that, looked at other opportunities, saw a travel franchise being advertised, thought, well, that looks easy. I've been on holiday to Lanzarote. How hard can it be? And that was really the impetus to get going, not enjoying it, trying to escape that pain point, thinking there's got to be something more enjoyable. And yeah, the rest, as they say, is history. So that was where we got started. Unbeknown to us, that was when obviously 9/11 was about to start. Yeah. And back then, very, very different business to what you see today, but it was the foundation, if you like. We started in the teletext sort of arena, if people are old enough to remember teletext, analog TV scenario. Then very quickly moved into teletext, holidays.co.uk, the sort of online advertising. Grew that. We became one of the top advertisers, which was great, but very, very difficult business to work in, very cutthroat, stack it high, sell it cheap, no loyalty with people shopping around to save a pound. Decided there's got to be a better way. And that's where I teamed up with a business partner who was a sort of the expert on sales, marketing, and sort of the recruitment side, which is where we launched the franchise side of the business, because we didn't have the deep pockets to expand. We wanted to grow, but employing lots of people is difficult. It's costly. The way the travel industry works as well, you don't get paid till people go on holiday. So it's a killer for cash flow. You can be absolutely fantastic, bring in lots of business, but it could be a year before you get paid.
Yes, right.
So that's where we started looking at other business models. The franchise element was born about 14 years ago. And that's really where you see the model today sort of born, and where we turned off all the paid advertising and moved to the relationship-based sort of model that you see today.
Okay. So you've taken us through a little bit of your thinking behind the franchise. So how, you clearly you had some challenges around growing the business organically, but I'm guessing you had a profitable core to that business. Not like you're going, well, you know what, this model is difficult, not working. Let's see how we can do it through franchising. You had a solid model that worked, but it was the scaling route that was difficult for you to make work.
Absolutely. So we were very good. We knew our numbers. We knew cost of acquisition. We knew conversion rates. We knew all of that. We were spending thousands of pounds per week on advertising, but without the cash flow, it was really difficult to scale up. So you couldn't employ more people to answer the phone because you didn't have the money coming in. It would take a year to be able to do it. So it really, really slowed the ability to grow the business. And back then, without a big sort of history, you couldn't go and raise the money. You couldn't borrow the money. So you had to look at opportunities. So it was a great way to expand. So we looked at, how do we expand? We wanted motivated people selling holidays. We wanted motivated people to work with, which is not always the case when you employ people. And you have to kiss a lot of frogs to find the right people. Yep. So franchising was a really logical sort of route for us, because you're bringing in people who are massively motivated because they're business owners. They actually pay to join your business, in effect, because they're paying for a franchise. You obviously have got a lot to deliver to go with that, but ultimately it was a cash positive way of expanding. And we were able to expand quite quickly, quicker than we ever would have done, through organic growth through employing people.
And in terms of then what the franchisee can expect, what are they getting for their fee? They're getting some training.
Yeah, so training is key. to success. So ultimately, we're providing the skills, we're providing the tools and the confidence to go and start a business. But our business, a little bit different to some others, maybe in terms of 95% of all the people that we recruit have never worked in travel, even though they're starting a travel business. Yeah. They are first-time entrepreneurs, and they've probably never sold anything either. So it's an interesting sort of route to attract people, but it absolutely works because it was almost our story when we got started. So we'd never worked in travel before. We typically had never sold on the phone before or anything like that. So we knew it worked. So it was our way of getting started. It sort of, we now own that space. So if you're looking for getting started in travel and you've never worked in travel before, there's limited options. So we typically are the number one route you go down. And training absolutely is crucial. We also have the best commercial terms in the industry because of our size and shape now as well. And part of that is also our growth is so strong. A lot of our trade partners want to work with us because we know we can sell product. So all those things combined makes it a very attractive proposition for anyone looking to start a travel business, because it would be hard work to go and do it yourself.
And you can get access to rates and potentially exclusive deals and things that other people can't because of your buying power, essentially.
Correct. And we also, as well as the training, which is, there's a lot to learn if you've never worked in the industry before, but we give brilliant support. So we have a whole team of business development managers. We believe we've got the highest or the best ratio of business development managers to travel consultants that you're going to find, which means it's not just the initial training, it's then the hand-holding as you go through the business, looking after you. We've got a huge team of head office sort of team who are there for support as well. We take care of all of the admin and support behind the scenes for you. So you sell the holiday if you're a franchisee, but then it gets handed off to our support team who then take care of all the bookings, all the paperwork, the ticketing, so that you just focus on selling the holidays and looking after the customer, because experience is our number one sort of priority for everybody. So we want to make sure that that's always the case.
And if I'm ambitious to build a significant business, what can I do? What are the options from?
That's part of the journey we take people on. We try and educate people that there really is no limit. Most people's limitations are how they've been labeled prior to joining us. They're in a job, they're earning £30,000 a year, so they assume that's what they're going to earn when they join us, let's say. But we have travel consultants who earn £30,000 a month. So there really is no limit to what you can do. It's really, as an entrepreneur, it's really down to the work and effort you put in.
Right. So what have you, looking back, what have you learned about franchising? What surprised you in those early days?
It's a good question. So I think in the early days, our training was very different. Training was much shorter. I did the training. So Paul, my business partner, he's responsible for the recruiting, the selling of the franchises. Then it's handed off to me to do the selling. We were pretty much a two-person business back then. Training has evolved massively, but at the same time, the needs of people is exactly the same. They're all joining the business, excited and scared. That's never changed. So, our sort of, we take people on a journey with us. We are very much about our way of getting customers is so simple. It's all about starting with friends, family, people, it's relationships, because we can all think of a handful of people who are going to go on holiday. And again, that hasn't changed, yet we see lots of other people trying to overcomplicate it. They try and do a very clever social media strategy or big advertising campaigns. If it was that easy, we would literally all just go and do the same, wouldn't we? So I guess the big learning is the simpler you keep it, the quicker and stronger the business grows.
And how do you mentioned you got a network of BDMs, so you're putting on 200 franchisees in a year. How do you manage that? How do you control that kind of growth?
Yeah. So that's been a steep learning curve for us. I think one of those biggest challenges of any business going through rapid growth is trying to keep up. I think I was taught a while back that every time a business doubles in size, you've got to completely change your processes. And absolutely, that's the case. And we've had to keep changing and evolving. And you can't just keep throwing money at the problem or people at the problem. You've got to evolve and change. So we've had to put in place teams of people at each stage to make sure we've got communication strong, processes strong. So we have a franchise recruitment team. So Paul does the absolute sort of the selling, so everyone says here's the same message, but then there's a whole team of people behind the scenes doing the recruiting, the marketing for that side. Then you once you've invested in the franchise, you then have an onboarding team, and then the onboarding team moves to the training team, and the training team then moves to the BDM team. So what we've tried to move more towards is sort of the one hat sort of approach, as opposed to in the early days, it would be we'd all have multiple hats trying to keep up. You can't do that anymore. It's a one-threaded sort of approach to business, I think is Jeff Bezos sort of calls it, but it's one hat, one job, do it really well, as opposed to spin too many plates and you won't get it done.
Yeah, good. So as you've scaled, then how do you manage to with the BDMs? What do you want to see in terms of making sure that you've got the best performance across the whole of the team? I guess like with any business with a range of employees, in this case a range of business owners, franchisees, you're going to have variable performance, some for various reasons. So how do you handle that? How do you manage that?
Systematizing, I think. It's trying to create processes. We're very open and honest with everybody before they even join. So we're very much a case of, look, it's really up to you what you get out of this. We don't guarantee success, but we'll absolutely show you the best way to do it, and we'll show you what the successful people are doing. And I think that's testament to when you see Trustpilot reviews and things like that. We're very transparent. So what we try to do is then say, look, this is best practice. This is what works. We absolutely suggest you do this. And if you do this, this, and this is what will happen. And if that's not for you, then we have another playbook you can use, and then, another playbook after that. So we say, try and systematize it. Yeah. And we know it's not a one size fits all, because everyone's a little bit different when they join us. Some people have marketing experience, but no sales experience. Some people have, maybe there's a mum coming back to work for the first time in 10 years, let's say, so doesn't have the same circle of contacts as somebody else. So we can give you different processes and different solutions to fit your background and your current situation. But then some people won't be successful because they don't put the time and effort in, but they absolutely recognize that that's the case. So over the years, we've tried to hone those skills, hone the processes, and strengthen the processes. When we see what works, great, that's what we'll teach you. When people come through training, one of the things we sort of say is, look, we have spent hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pounds learning what doesn't work, so you don't have to.
Yeah.
And that's part of buying a franchise. You buy into that shortcutting success, if you like, because we've got the system and the process.
Right. And how has your role had to change? How have you had to adapt over the years?
I've had to learn a lot. So, when we started, it was Paul and myself. Then we added one or two people. That was easy. You could lean across and talk to somebody. Yeah. Today, we've got 90 plus staff as sort of what we class as the head office team, but 700 plus franchisees. That's evolved massively. The having to learn how to manage people, how to sort of set KPIs and OKRs and every other acronym you can think of. Neither of us have training in this. Neither of us have got a degree in business studies or any of this sort of stuff. So it's always a learning. It's like, okay, don't know how to do that. Got to go and find out how to do it. But at the same time, then you bring in the experts to who've got the skill set, but it all takes time to, evolve, and trying to business plan and cater for the growth, all those skills that you just have never needed before. It's been an interesting time.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned the people. How do you, what have you learned over the years? What have you got right and what have you got wrong about people?
We've kissed a lot of frogs. We've got brilliant people in the business, and I think we've got incredibly loyal people in the business as well who are on the journey and enjoy being part of it. It's travel at the end of the day, but we've been through COVID. We've had lots of challenges. They've stuck with us, so we're really loyal to them as well. But I think what we've tried to do very often is we've tried to hire in skills. And this is one of our sort of big learnings is Paul and I have been rubbish at hiring because we didn't know what we didn't know. We've never done that process before. We would not get lazy, but you get so caught up with what you got to do, you then think, oh, yeah, they'll do type of thing. And in a positive way, you're recruiting big hires, but you don't take time out to do proper job descriptions and think it through and ask the right questions. So as a result, you then end up hiring the wrong people. A players in another role, just not A players in our business, let's say, because we got it wrong. So I think that's probably our biggest challenge is we probably slowed ourselves down because we didn't get those bigger hires right and probably didn't recognize we already had some brilliant talent in our business as well. But I often hear that from other people. That's very often the case.
Yeah, good. So to a certain extent, one of the beauties of franchising is that all of your franchisees are self-motivated to do really well. It's one of the things you said earlier on. Might be a little bit different with your head office team of 90 people. So what are your thoughts on motivating people internally and getting the culture that you want?
Yeah, I think culture is key, isn't it, for anything? It's they often say, you should hire for attitude, you can teach the skills. So that's key. It's trying to foster a feeling of empowerment, which we've struggled with over the years because that again is that sort of entrepreneurial aspect of Paul and myself. We're control freaks, probably is what we'd be described as. But that's then us trying to paint a picture of what it looks like done, if you like. So we're getting better at that. Having that, like I say, the empowerment, interacting with our franchisees. So we're trying to create a one team sort of concept. We work in travel, so it is an exciting industry, but sort of we put on a lot of trips for our franchisees. We try and involve the corporate sort of team as well in that. So this year we'll be taking 800 people away on trips. Not holidays, they're sort of working trips. So we'll go to Mauritius and take people and coach them and see the sites, have a bit of fun, and that obviously goes a long way for culture. There's not many work trips like that you get to go on in your life. So lots of those. And recognition. So one of the things we introduced was sort of a rewards and recognition program for the franchisees. So we have what we call our success ladder. And then corporately, we've introduced a lot of benefits to the team as well to try and sort of demonstrate that we care as well. So whether it be training grants, so we sort of encourage everyone to go and learn new skills. Doesn't have to be business related. Could be go and learn to crochet or windsurf or both. And we pay for it. So that's a sort of just a value add. A lot of companies will do things like private medical, those type of things, which we do and we give great cover for. But it's the little unusual things, those less common things, which make a difference.
So is that a flat budget per individual, or is it related to their salary level? Or?
No, we give a flat fee for everyone, which renews every year. But on top of that, they can also put in for extra. So if they want to do something that's definitely going to benefit the business, then we'll consider everything. So that's key. We're also, pre-COVID, we had an office where there was 50 people. We're now 90 plus, having sort of adjusted during that period. But 98% of everyone works remotely now. That's a big cultural change. for the business. So we're very big on daily meetings, huddles, pulse meetings, which are the heartbeat of the business, if you like. So every team meets every day, even for a short period of time, just so there's communication flowing up and down and everyone feels part of a community and gets involved.
Yeah, excellent, good. And how many direct reports do you have? How have you structured it at the top?
So 5 directly into me.
Okay. Yeah.
And 3 into Paul. So Paul focuses on all the income generating activities. I focus on the spending of the money activities.
Nice.
That's how it sort of seems to work out. But yeah.
Yeah. Paul earns it, you spend it.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. Good. So and you mentioned KPIs. So what are the handful of KPIs that you look for?
So the ultimate, we tried to boil it down into just 2, which is the profit per travel consultant and the number of travel consultants.
Okay.
So everything else feeds into that basically. So it's not about the profit for us per se, but it's a measure for us, because if the travel consultant is being profitable, they're happy, they're making a good living, they're successful. And as a franchise organization, we only make money if they make money.
Yeah.
So it's in our interest to help them make money. So our objective is to ensure that every franchisee's income is going up and up. They'll stay with us longer. They'll then continue to grow and grow. And then that drives every other activity, whether it be training, support, contract renewals, systems and processes to help with efficiencies. Everything hangs off of those 2 metrics ultimately. And then each department has their own sort of KPIs as well, but everything's feeding up to just that to try and keep it nice and simple.
Great. So if you were lost on a desert island or something, and all you could get was a couple of numbers through, those would be the couple of numbers that you'd have.
Correct. Yeah. And if you keep it that simple, it's everyone's got that North Star to aim towards. And you simply ask your question, does this help a franchisee make more money? Yes or no? If no, should I be doing it?
Great, lovely. So you also mentioned OKRs, so objective key results. How far through the organisation do they flow? Do they go right through to the travel consultant as well?
Not to the travel consultant, because we try and keep it dead simple for them, but it should touch every other team member. It's a relatively new sort of addition. What we have found is we do have quite a lot of teams, so it has been a bit of an interesting education for us all to learn how to do it, how to keep on top of it. We've had a few false starts there because it's learning, it's all new to the teams and us. But also we didn't initially get our sort of business plan right at the top. So we had some brilliant OKRs, but they weren't driving up to the right set of objective, if you like. So we've sort of had to adjust that, but get it right, and it just absolutely, snowballs.
Great. And are you doing those on a quarterly basis, essentially?
Correct. Yeah. And let's say first time we did it, we weren't keeping on top of it and tracking and making sure we were doing. We had to start it off right. We just didn't follow through. So, let's say learning curve.
Yeah. Excellent. Good. So, lots of really good things there about how you're executing the business. Really good stuff around the people. What do you think? Why do you think you've been so successful strategically? What do you think you got right from a strategy point of view, right from the start?
Good question again. I think it's a couple of things. One is all about the people. So what we've tried to do is make it very relationship based so that it's enjoyable. And people are happy and more likely to engage and do things. So it's travel. It's a great product. So I think product helps as well. We could have done this with plumbing, but you're not going to get the same number of people wanting to become plumbers because it's not like they sit there and say, oh, great, I'd love to, do some plumbing today. And it's not saying people sit there and say, I'd like to sell a holiday today, but everyone gets excited about holidays. So it's an easier thing. You can all think of 10 people who'd like to go on holiday. So we got that right. We got the simplicity of the training right from the outset. So we didn't try and say, go and find 100 customers or 1,000 customers. We said, go and find one. And we kept it that simple.
Right. Okay.
Once you found one, we'll teach you how to find the second. And then we'll do the third. And literally we layer things up. So it's so simple, anybody can do it. And then it's rinse and repeat. So it's product, it's people, it's simplicity at the end of the day.
And going back at the beginning, I mean, you made a big strategic decision as well, really, about franchising. So that was a key thing, which essentially helped to drive your competitive advantage, I think, through and give you a lot of ways to scale the business that you wouldn't otherwise have had. But right back at the beginning, you entered a very crowded marketplace. It's not as if you invented the travel industry.
No.
So what did you get right about that positioning at the beginning?
We probably didn't get it right straight away. It took a while. So in the first year, we only recruited a handful of franchisees. We then had to play around with the training till we got that right. It took us a while to figure out the right messaging for the franchising. But once we did, the numbers just flew in. So there was a couple of key things that we introduced, which made a massive difference to, our secret sauce, if you like. And so we got that right. Coupled that with, right now we've got the training right as well. So not only were we recruiting very well, we were then getting people started very quickly, and they could see that success really coming in. And typically whatever people do in that first 6 weeks when they start a business is what they then repeat and repeat. So for us, it's all about keeping it simple, but getting you started, seeing success, proving it works. Then the light bulb comes on, you get that confidence, and then right, foot down, off we go. So it's all linked, but like I say, wasn't necessarily right straight away. It took a while.
Yeah. All right, great. And what about managing the cash? I mean, you've created a kind of model where you've got essentially recurring revenue stream. You've also got with the franchise fee, you've got an element of cash coming in before actually it's going out. What else have you learned around cash and cash management over the years?
Hire a really good CFO.
Yeah. At what point did you do that, by the way?
Only in the last year, I have to say. So not to say we didn't have people in the business. So we had an FD. Yeah. My brother was actually one of the original partners in the business. So he was a chartered accountant. He unfortunately passed away. So that then left us with obviously a void. We then recruited an FD who was on paper a great FD, but just didn't gel with us. And I think that's key. So it's not just have someone who's qualified and very good. You've got to have someone you can work with, just like in any business, and not just with that role, but any role. So we tried to make it work, and we just couldn't in terms of relationship. And it just, we were just too scared to talk to him, type of thing. It's just too hard work.
Yeah.
Lovely guy, but just from a
Paul, you're not bringing enough in, and Steve is spending too much.
Exactly. Yes. So it just became depressing. So we parted company with him, had an interim sort of fix. But that was only ever interim. And it wasn't until we brought in Stephen, our new CFO, which then really skyrocketed that sort of whole department, the results, not the results, because the results driven by us, but the reporting of the results, the confidence in your numbers, the KPI reporting, the management accounts. We went years without decent management accounts. So it was all very finger in the air sort of, is it working? Is it not? Type of thing. Are we going to run out of money? Are we not? Type of thing. So once you've now got that strength, that stability, and that sort of confidence in your figures, you can then make better decisions to grow the business even quicker. So that's been key. And we're now seeing the benefits of that. I'd have to say up till that point, our strategy was not all about profit though, so we weren't, which will sound really strange. We were all about plowing everything back into the business. So to us, it didn't, as long as we weren't losing money, we weren't running out of money, all we were worried about was how can we grow and reinvest and reinvest and reinvest. And I think that was key to our success as well. We weren't just trying to make lots of profits. That was never our strategy. Today, it's evolved and changed, but up to this point, it was how do we reinvest? And that's paid dividends for us because obviously now we're growing quicker than anybody else.
Yeah, great. And you know, what does the future hold for you? Are those 700 or so franchisees? Is this international? Is this largely UK?
It's all UK at the moment. Okay. So watch this space. We've had many offers over the years for organizations, companies wanting to take our model and take it overseas. We've always turned them down up to now, even though the sums of money have been very tempting, shall we say. We wanted to get the nuts and bolts right for the business, get the foundations correct, because we were creaking at the seams trying to grow. So we had to get foundations right before we do anything else. As the name suggests, it's not just travel. There's always has been an intention to move into other areas, and we've had those ready to go with ideas and strategies for a long time. The problem has been we've been a victim of our own success, and we've been too busy to actually do them.
Yeah, good. So just looking back again, then over the years, maybe what mistakes have you made? You know, what would you if you had a chance again? You know, what would you do differently, if anything?
I don't think this episode would be long enough to list them all. There have been so many mistakes. I think we very often describe our business as being one of those big sort of balls of sellotape, or
right.
Everything's just a bolt on. It's we need to do that. Right, we'll bolt that on. Or we need a system for that. Right, we'll bolt it on. We need to do this. Great. Right, stick some sticky tape there. That will do for now. We'll get around to doing it better later. 14 years later, we're just starting now to peel off the sellotape. And that's probably the biggest, not a mistake, because, let's face it, we're a good business. Yeah. It's got us to where we are, but oh my God, it's a challenge now to try and undo that. I think at one count, we had 32 different systems where we had details stored about our franchisees or our customers, right. Whether it be an email marketing system, a CRM system, a account system, whatever it may be. And of course you update one, but you forget to update the other 31, so trying to undo that has been a challenge. And I think one of our other biggest mistakes is not having a big enough vision, shall we say, and a big enough strategy and goal to work towards, which might sound crazy. We've always had a direction, but then you get busy and you just get caught up in the flow. So then you don't actually move things forward as quick as you could do, because let's face it, we're doing okay. But actually we could do even better if we had a stronger North Star.
Brilliant. Good. So on that kind of stronger North Star, I mean, what you mentioned growth and watch this space about international. I'm just going through the one or two languages that I might know and non-soloviaggi and stuff like that. How does not just travel and translate to different countries, but what's the legacy that you're trying to create here? What's it all for?
We get a huge amount of fun in helping others create businesses and be successful. So I guess the legacy is to create hundreds of thousands of successful entrepreneurs who have changed their lives because of what we've enabled them to do. It might sound corny and cheesy, but it's a reality of what we've created. We are changing lives every day. People are giving up employment to come and do this, not necessarily straight away, and most people join us part-time, but then go full-time. And that's like an emotional moment for us, because all of a sudden people have put this massive trust in us to do this. We're seeing people earning life-changing incomes. We're seeing people be able to travel the world and retire. And it's just a buzz, and that's what drives us more than anything. So I guess that's the ultimate legacy, if you like. And then if we can repeat that in other sectors or in other destinations, fantastic.
Right, good. And just one more sort of specific question about it. So if there's somebody listening that's considering going down the franchising route, franchising their business, becoming a franchisor, what What one or two things might you suggest they think about?
Process. So this comes back to the sticky tape holding things together, I guess. You ultimately, with a franchise, you need to systematize everything. Otherwise, you've got only one way of doing things, but 700 variations, which is a nightmare to manage. And we've been through that pain point of trying to, you put people through training, but you don't lock it down tight enough that, okay, here's exactly how you do it. McDonald's is a great example of a brilliant franchise with their system that they've created. It's trying to replicate that in other areas, which maybe aren't as easy to systematize, but if you do it, get it right, document it, have strict policies and procedures, all the things nobody's interested in doing when you get started. It's not the fun stuff, but it makes your life so much easier if you do it. Got to have a great product, got to have something people want, but ultimately for it to work as a franchise, you've got to have a strong system and process, and to be able to demonstrate to somebody that it works. It can't just be a pipe dream. It's actually, no, if you do this, this will happen. Here's the process.
Yeah, and that's when you've got 700 franchisees, it's really easy. I'm not, it's really easy for you to show a new person. If I came and said, Steve, show me what I can do, you can show me huge examples of how people have been successful. If you're starting off, that's difficult to do, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Because you don't know what you don't know, or instinctively, you know how it works, but evidencing that to somebody else is difficult. So that's always a challenge. And you might have one or two examples, but was that luck? Was it a fluke? Was it the market sector they're in? So now we're of the size we can, we've got such good data. We can say, well, if you're, if you come from this background, this is what will typically happen. If you come from this background, this will happen. And so you can prove that. You couldn't do that from day one.
Yeah. Brilliant. Well, I could carry on asking you questions for a long time, but you probably wouldn't want to carry on answering them. So are you all right for just a couple of quick fire questions before we close?
Absolutely, yep.
Brilliant. So if you could go back to the younger Steve, what advice would you give him?
Just keep learning. You can never learn too much.
Okay. So talking about learning then, what books, podcasts, or what's your favorite way of learning? And if you'd like to highlight any particular authors or podcasts, then please do.
Obviously, your podcast is fantastic.
I wasn't trying to lead down that route.
but it's true. You got to find things that resonate with you. Otherwise, it's just painful. My very first book I was taught or shown to read was Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Yeah. Not an easy book to read, but absolutely the grounding for everything. And I typically now listen to, I'm not a great reader. I'm much better at listening. So I'll listen to 2 or 3 podcasts a week, or I'll read 2 or 3 books online, listen to 2 or 3 books in the car, at the gym every single week. So there's always something new. I think one of my favorite podcasts, probably Entrepreneur on Fire, daily sort of just, they always say it's lonely at the top in a business. So podcasts like that are just a great sort of hit of adrenaline or motivation when you need it, when you might be missing that. I could list so many books. Seth Godin books, love his. Link to, I guess, your podcast in many ways, the ScaleUp, Rockefeller Habits. Love that sort of all the analyticals and business process. Like I say, don't come from that sort of background, so always learning those type of skills.
Brilliant, excellent. And are you into tech? Any bits of tech or apps that you found particularly useful?
I'm one of the very, very original users of Evernote. So I was in like the top first 1,000 users, I think, and stuck with it ever since. Is on every single device. So I'm always thinking of things, and I'll forget it 2 minutes later. So it's got to go into something very quick. Yeah,
brilliant, good. And you mentioned a couple of people, but who would you say has had the most influence on you as a business leader?
My business partner, Paul. So we come from very different backgrounds with very different characters. But every time I see him do something, I take inspiration from that. And it always makes me want to be a better version of me. So that's definitely one. A few years back, we sponsored Tony Robbins' event in London, the Unleash the Power Within. Hugely inspirational. So listen to so many books of his. They probably don't get much better than him.
Yeah, very good. Excellent. Good. And you have kind of mentioned it, but I guess there's two aspects to this. I normally ask, what have you found to be your most successful marketing tactic? So I guess there's two questions. One is for finding franchisees, and the other is for franchisees to find customers, I guess. And you mentioned very much relationship building.
So it's probably the same answer for both, which is linked to relationships, but it's just get excited about what you do. Okay. Yeah. You probably, in any industry, you probably know potential customers. If you get excited about your business, your product, people will come to you. That's the same with the travel, but also 20% of all of our franchisees come from referrals from people who just get excited, either customers who think it's brilliant or travel consultants who think it's brilliant. Right. And by default, they just share it. So that's makes us happy because it's the ultimate accolade is that someone recommends it to somebody else.
Brilliant. Good. So how can people get hold of you or find out more about Not Just Travel if they'd like to do so?
The best way is head on over to thetravelfranchise.com. You'll learn all about the travel franchise. You'll learn about myself and Paul and the entire team, and that'll also take you to Not Just Travel, the holiday sales side of the business as well.
Brilliant. And if we want to book a holiday, how do we find our local Not Just Travel person? Head
on over to notjusttravel.com. There's a search box on the homepage there. Pop in your postcode. They'll find your local travel consultant for you.
Fantastic. Well, Steve Witt, thank you very much indeed for being my guest on ScaleUp Radio today.
Absolute pleasure.
I hope you enjoyed that discussion, and if you're building and scaling your own business, you might well be interested in our book, The Entrepreneurial ScaleUp System. And it's exactly what it says on the tin. It's a practical handbook around scaling a business in a structured way. And you can order a copy on all your favorite online retailers, including an audio version, or you can find it and other supporting resources on our website, www.esusgroup.co.uk. That's esusgroup.co.uk, which is esusgroup.co.uk.
This has been a Monkey Pants Productions podcast.